Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bxb'S Bits and Bobs, episode 40. Oh, this is episode 40. This is a milestone, guys, of our...
it was a real big number, 40.
It's a pretty big number. Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? Of our sort of bi-weekly, sometimes once a month, sometimes twice a day podcast. So who knows how we do this now? It's whenever we feel like it. In some ways, we're a bit late with this podcast. In other ways, what's lateness? What's time? What is that? That is just a concept. We can define that. And with me today, as always, defining reality itself is Richard Worrell.
Defining reality. Am I some sort of Jesus Christ figure now?
You get bored for Jesus Christ.
Need to say.
You need to grow the line, and then you could be more Jesus Christy. Yeah. How about that? Can you handle that? I haven't made a dig about your baldness in a while, so I thought it was time.
Thanks. If you can hear scrubbing, the wife is finishing up her baking.
She's finishing up the baking. It is a Sunday morning podcast. We come to you here, which is a strange time of day to be doing a podcast, and a strange day, I suppose, in many ways, on a Sunday morning. But yeah, so there's baking going on, and then I've just had to call Joel Summerfield in from frolicking in the fields of sunflowers, which is what he often does on a Sunday morning. Joel, isn't that right?
That's what I've been doing most weekday evenings. I was thinking though, don't they say life starts at 40? Can we get on that bandwagon with our podcast number? So
like people can actually start listening to our podcast. I like that. This is like a soft reboot.
Yeah.
So how are we going to make it different? How are we going to sort of set this reboot apart from the 39 episodes that have come before? Joel, this was your idea. I'm expecting to brainstorm here. Come on.
Maybe start talking sense or something like that.
I've just established that we define reality. Why would we want to start talking sense at this point? That seems like a step backwards. No?
Do you want to open with a bit of a philosophy every week, maybe? So that's your thought for the next fortnight is about reality. What is reality? Letters, emails to kind of thing.
I quite like that. That's quite deep. I mean, in a way, though, we've all been watching some sci-fi TV, which does, in many ways, deal with things like time, reality, dimensions, and stuff to that effect, doesn't it? So there is a connection there, in a way. I think we've all watched a little of the newest hot thing on Netflix, which is Altered Carbon. Is that right?
Yeah, we have. And I almost hope it wasn't real itself.
So you still just watched the first 2 episodes, Rich?
Yeah, I've not gone past that yet. I was hoping you might fill in some of the blanks for me so I can enjoy the rest, because I'm really not at the moment.
Well, that's what I watched last night, and I'm not gonna, because I've read the book, I'm not gonna go into I can't talk about it too much because it'd just be massive spoilers. But I can sort of see the problems you've got with that so far. Those first 2 episodes, it just feels like the way it's been cut together and edited, it just feels so disjointed at times. And I really struggle to find like a character to root for and a narrative to really get into at this point. It just feels very odd. I mean, the one thing you can't deny is there's so much money on that screen. It's crazy how much money they put into this show. You know, the fact that you've got whole sets that get used once, like, and then it's just thrown out, and then there's masses of CGI, brilliant futurescape city stuff, like, you know, really, really nice visuals. But I also have a bit of an issue with the fact that this is meant to be like an indeterminate, but, you know, many, many, many hundreds of years in the future, and everything looks a bit like it does right now at times. It's like, I think things would look perhaps a teensy bit more different.
That's one of the fundamental issues I've got with it. And I don't think it's a plot spoiler or anything. What I'm interested in getting out of you is more of the world building stuff. Make this world make sense to me, because it just doesn't at the minute.
So the sleeving,
the basic premise is that a guy has been put to sleep for 250 years and then he's brought back to solve a crime, right?
But more importantly to it is the how and the why and mostly the how he's put to sleep, because the concept of backing up basically who you are into data, which can then be uploaded into any body, literally any physical body. That's where this world becomes so interesting, because it's sort of a spoiler. They use it for interstellar travel, and they use it for sort of like being able to infiltrate. And you can literally go into any body. And one thing that started to get sort of introduced in the second episode was that it's not just a case of this guy being a fucking badass, which he is. It's that he's also a master manipulator, and that he can he can make anybody basically can be won round by his I don't know, like magical powers to see all the details and everything. It's
like he's got that highest tier of charisma in Fallout.
Yeah, that's it. It is that. There you go. That's it. And I think the show has the potential to improve. I think it's struggling from it's trying to do a lot of world building, and it's giving you a lot of concepts very quickly, very early on, and it just throws you in there. And even though I've read the book, I was sat there with my brow furrowed for quite a lot of it, going, "Hey, just take a breath, like, just make something make sense." All these signs and portents, and these things that are in his head, and there's things that are real, and it's like, Christ, just chill out. Like, how many different concepts do you need to throw at the audience at once? It's a bit of a mess right now. But I'm gonna stick with it as well, Richard. I think, because I think it's interesting. It's daring.
It is, and I'm trying to get over the world building stuff and get into the story, because there's just some things that are just so jarring, and I can't get over them.
Do you know what my biggest problem is?
It's supposed to be 250 years in the future.
Yeah.
For this.
No. It's meant to be 250 years in the future from when he died, which is already hundreds of years in the fucking future.
Oh yeah. But 250 years relative from any point in someone's life is a long time away, right?
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah.
So he wakes up, and he seems to know everything about this place. He gets asked to look through a telescope at one point, and the fella says, "What's that?" He's like, "Yeah, that's a military satellite." "How do you know, mate? You haven't seen him for 250 years."
That is sort of explained in and around that sort of scene, I believe. It's that as we've got further into the future, development and the changes of humanity have slowed down a lot. Yeah. So I think what they're saying is that 250 years from right now, where we are, obviously was like the Dark Ages almost in comparison to where we are with technology. But as we get further into the future, those developments slow, incrementally based on the further we get. So I think they're saying that a lot hasn't changed in 250 years, which in a way is its own commentary on. It should
communicate that though, because I'm going into this thinking, right, Demolition Man, this is going to be all about 3 seashells and. There's the stuff that he doesn't know because he's a man out of time. And there's none of that. He just knows.
No, there is. Remember when he puts on the adverts?
Yeah.
And we get that trip. That's all new to him, and that's why he's struggling with it, because he's never experienced all the into your eyeball advertising. No ad blockers in Altered Carbon, except when she puts one on him, I suppose. So
he doesn't do a very good job of communicating. The freshness of experiences.
That's kind of my big problem is Joel Kinnaman. He seems to mumble his way through most scenes. I actually struggle to hear a lot of the dialogue he's delivering, because he's like that. That's a lot of it, and he's so laconic, and it's just like, I just don't give a shit about this guy. And then the detective lady has one position in acting, which is angry, and she's just angry all the time about everything and everyone. For no reason that we know of yet, though. Trust me, you do find out why she's angry. But it's just like, there's not a lot to root for, is there?
No, there's not. And I've watched it so far because, like you say, there's so much money on screen. It looks lovely.
Yeah, totally.
You kind of just want to just see more of it, even if it's not making much sense. But I'll stick with it.
So I'll use that as a sort of a segue a little bit. Joel, another show with a lot of money on screen is Star Trek Discovery. And how far in are you, Richard? Because we be careful with spoilers if you're not up to date.
Oh, barely in at all.
Okay.
Same. First 2 episodes. I've left it since then.
Right. Ow. Yeah, because it started off really well. So I'm up to date with it. It started off really well. It had a bit of a cold middle just before it sort of went to the mid-season break, and it's just come back from the mid-season break, and it's really hit the ground running. I'm really loving the last 3 episodes. They're just like, wow, I can't believe it. This is brilliant. What are your thoughts, Ben, then? You think the same?
So I think the 2 big twists that have happened, I predicted from episode 1 or 2, or basically when that character got introduced. But I kind of like the fact that these weren't twists as such, as they were, if you were paying attention, you could have worked it out. It's not. It doesn't feel like lazy storytelling. It feels like the storytelling has been justified. Like they've laid the breadcrumbs down there. If you're a Star Trek fan, if you know about how characters work in this universe and stuff, and so the things about the security chief and about the captain, you're like, this is played out in the way I wanted it to, and it's played out in a way that feels very justified and satisfying. And now I'm really excited to see what the new status quo is, and I think it's one of the most unique. Well, it's certainly like unlike any other Star Trek I've ever seen. It's completely mental. And it's taken me this long to kind of accept the fact that it. I still don't really think it's Star Trek, but I like it for what it is now, and I can enjoy it on its own grounds. They've made some very bold moves with the settings and the stories and stuff like that. So I was pretty impressed. You know, to do these long serialized story arcs. You know, like 3 episodes we spent on that last storyline, and I thought that was quite cool. And what it is as well is it seems to be when Brian Fuller was originally attached to this as the showrunner, he wanted to do an anthology sort of set up, almost like American Horror Story. So each series would be a different time point, you know, for Star Trek, and a different set of characters. And it feels like they've kind of looked at that and gone, well, that instead of that kind of crazy, you know, all over storytelling, we're just going to throw all of that at it immediately, and we're just going to tell these very disparate, big concept Star Trek storylines all on this one ship. And I think, I've really grown to like some of the characters. I really disliked Saru, but he's really come into his own. I really dislike the engineer, whose name I can never remember, but he's really come into his own as well. I even kind of like Tilly now. And Michael Burnham, she's very much the center, so she's very much the sort of somewhat predictable rock of it. So I can understand why she doesn't have the biggest sort of peaks and troughs in her character, but I even like her. I mean, it's been very good. What did you think? Were you caught by surprise by either of the 2 big twists? Or did
I actually was. So I didn't really see any of that. I think I got one of the big twists literally about 2 minutes before it was actually announced on screen. So I only just got there, but they all caught me out, and I was genuinely just like, wow, this is really good. I think I agree with a lot of what you said. I'm really beginning to like the characters. I like how it definitely doesn't feel like it's not a next generation thing. It's very different. It's got these. It seems much more planned out. They've got these long story arcs that have been set up throughout the hub, you know, from the start, basically building up to this subtly and things. I'm really looking for, you know, it's kind of, I'm at the point now where every Monday I just want to watch the episode straight away. So I'm actually quite excited for tomorrow.
I mean, I'm really curious as to what happens where that episode ended, and it's oh shit, okay, how do they get themselves out of that hole? Because that's a deep fucking hole. So I'm really curious to see what they're gonna do. Really, really good. Like really, really good sci-fi. Surprisingly good. Richard, I hope that wasn't too spoilery for you. He's muted right now.
Sorry, there's lots of clattering in the kitchen, so I was on mute. Sorry. But no, that's not too spoilery.
You should watch it, man.
I definitely want to. I did kind of enjoy those first 2 episodes, and I think I told myself I'll wait until there's more of a run and I can just blitz it. How big is it then? That seems to have been running for weeks now.
13 episodes or 14 are up to now.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know what the season run is right now. And then finally on our little sci-fi jaunt, I've definitely been watching a lot of sci-fi recently. I'm rewatching Babylon 5 on Pick TV. And I'm trying to support the fact that it's being broadcast, you know, reruns and stuff like that. You know, see my viewership, see the 4 people watching it, and commission a new show. God damn it, it's still one of the best pieces of science fiction on TV, and it makes all this stuff we're talking about seem fucking amateurish in comparison when it comes to storytelling. Yes, the money's not there. Yes, the aliens look really fucking silly half the times, but just for writing alone, it is just sublime. Just sublime characters. And if you've never watched Babylon 5, we're at the point in the reruns where it's at its fucking best. So I highly recommend checking that out. Nobody's saying anything. I can only assume you're both heathens that don't understand how amazing Babylon 5 is.
I've never watched it. I watched one episode and saw the same space sequence repeated, I think 3 times. And I thought, there's no money in this show. I never watched it again.
Well, I can't argue with the money thing, but it's for the writing and the characters you watch it. Like it is honestly amazing, like well written, just so well written by JMS. Anyway, so shall we get into video game stuff, guys? Because we've been away a while, and there's been some fairly large announcements, I think. So I think we should touch on some of these little news points. Some of them connect quite nicely. Let's start with the big out of left field. Wow. Is it out of left field if Nintendo keep doing weird shit? I suppose it's kind of the norm for them now. But even by their standards, this was pretty fucking weird. And that's Nintendo Labo. So kind of without any warning, as the pans will serenade this announcement, without any warning, Nintendo came out and went, do you know what? The future in video games is cardboard. And we're going to sell you cardboard and you're going to have fun with your kids. Yeah,
it's weird, isn't it?
Super weird.
It's obviously not for me as a nearly 40-year-old man, but even I still kind of want to try it out. It's just.
You're telling me you're not going to buy it, Richard? Because I don't believe you. You tell me you're not going to buy it.
Well, I'm going to tell you now that I'm not going to buy it, and then when it comes out, we'll see what happens. Eh? You know what I'm like.
It's fair enough. I thought if anybody was going to buy it, Richard would.
Yeah,
I really did.
I can see myself in that robot costume. But it's just the perfect fusion, I think, between what kids like doing when they're young is play. You know, it's the old adage: people when they're like 5, 6, they prefer to play with the boxes to their toys rather than the toys themselves. So why not make the box the toy and incorporating that into a high-tech platform like the Switch and just going back to the absolute basics of a sheet of cardboard. I just think it's genius that they've worked those two things together. But the inventiveness of how they've done it as well. I'm sure this won't be the end of it, but the trailer's got all sorts of different toys and tools that you can build. And that's the key to it as well. It's not just the experience, the end product. The fact that you've got to build it, color it in and customize it. It's a very tactile product. And unlike anything else that you can get in the toy space. So it should hopefully make a big impact. The only concern I'd have with it is, if you buy a box of Lego, you've got the Lego, that's it. You need to have a Switch for this to work. So I wonder whether the barrier might be a bit too high.
Well, they're looking at their install base, aren't they? And going, it's just going up every 5 seconds and by the millions. And I don't think they're too worried about, not enough people having Switches where this would be a relevant product for them. It's really kind of a weird one to describe, isn't it? What it actually is. So it's you get like cardboard sheets and you pop out the cardboard sheets and you make a contraption. It could be a fishing rod. It could be like a little toy piano. And then your Switch will interact with those devices that you've constructed from cardboard in various ways. So it could be, incorporating, say, the controllers into it. So there's like a form of back and forth communication between the tablet and the controllers, or the fishing rod will interact with the screen. If there's a fishing mini game or something like that. But while that sort of sounds quite pedestrian, the way it's presented, it's just so much charm and joy and happiness and just fun. Nintendo get fun like no other sort of video game company does. This crossover media is absolutely bonkers, and it's got a lot of people very sort of excited. I'm talking about adults. I mean, I think there's a whimsy to it that really appeals to the gamer. We are obviously, as a lot of gamers, due to our mindset, we like to be transported to other worlds. We like to play in interactive spaces. We like toys. We like that stuff. That's the nature of gaming is that kind of entertainment. So I think, while it seems to ostensibly be for the kids, I know a lot of adults are going to at least pick up the starter pack and give it a go. Because, why not? I don't know if I will. I really don't. But I'd kind of like to try it so that my curiosity might override my purchasing sense, as it were. What about you, Joel?
Well, I'm quite actually excited about it. But I think the appeal for me is that obviously I've got a 3.5-year-old son who.
Do you have an excuse?
Almost perfect.
Yes.
For. To me, it's I wonder if they've worked a bit and then wanting people to buy them is going to be so expensive. So they somehow managed to come up with a really cheap solution to sort of facilitate a compilation of mini games with interactive toys. Really, I think it's brilliant. I haven't pre-ordered it yet, and I'm not sure if I will pre-order, but I will probably buy it very shortly after it is released. I'm really excited. I'm really impressed by the complexity of some of the contraptions. Like you say, that piano works by having you put the Joy-Con inside it, and it's sort of I think you put some reflective tape on the inside of some of the keys, and then the IR camera on the Joy-Con can detect which key you're playing, tapping down to play the right note. It's ingenious. This is
crazy.
Like, yeah, I'm so impressed with some of the sort of models and contraptions that they've managed to come up with out of cardboard that, yeah, I think I'll have a great time. And I don't have to worry too much about my son destroying them, which will inevitably happen, because I believe that the nets could be made available for free, so people will probably just do cheap alternatives. Nintendo will probably even allow to buy them separately after a while. I imagine just buy some replacement cardboard sheets and stuff. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. It really makes me wonder some of the stuff that goes on in Nintendo's kind of R&D labs. If this is one of the few things, imagine that they do 10 things, and out of all those 10 they do, only one of them actually gets to market. Imagine how the other 9 stuff's like.
There's got to be something in Nintendo. They're like, no, that is too crazy. But this comes out.
or is it like the was it the 10th man rule, where it's just like, if 9 people say no, the one person that says yes to the idea, that means it must be greenlit. Because it's this crazy kind of like, yeah, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see inside like that pitch meeting. Can you imagine? Right. So we've got this cardboard, and this is animated Japanese fella who's just jumping up and down in front of his PowerPoint, telling you how it's going to work. It would be my God. And then say yes to it.
It's not actually that crazy for Nintendo, because they did used to make stuff like that. Obviously not with technology built into it, but they used to make foldable.
I know what you're saying, but we're in 2018. I mean, it's kind of like, it's pretty crazy by today's standards, isn't it? I mean, this idea of moving back from the tech.
Speaking internally to the Nintendo board, it would be a reasonable sell, I would suggest, to say, like, this is our heritage, this is where we started. We can bring this bang up to date with our current technology.
Yeah, it's difficult sometimes. I think as Western gamers and stuff, we understand Western companies and we understand the Western studios a bit easier because of it. I think it's such a different culture, isn't it? I mean, the way we'll talk about one of the games, Monster Hunter World, we'll talk about that later. Me and Richard have been playing lots of that, and it's like there are some distinct differences to the stuff that is brought out from the US and Europe compared to what comes out from Japan, and this is. Yeah, well, there's a reason that they're still a big player in the space, aren't they? So, yeah, excited. Can't wait to see. When is it coming? When is it due?
March or April, I think. It might be April.
Okay. I know it's something like that. Yeah, I remember there was a date, but I honestly can't remember what it was now.
Just after my birthday, guys.
Perfect present for Richard. Have some cardboard. There you go.
We'll make you our own version of it, Richard.
Yeah. Yes. No, I like that. Yes. Like you make someone a card. We'll make you a fake Labo set. Yeah. Bxb'S Labo set. Definitely branded. Definitely. Right. Let's move on to kind of like one of the bigger topics that sort of organically emerged in the last few weeks because of some announcements that have been made. So the first one I want to mention is Xbox came out, and I thought this was a huge announcement, by the way. Xbox have come out and said, if you're a member of the Gamepass subscription service, which is, I think, £8 a month, and it gets you a library of about 120 games right now, 360 and Xbox One titles. Going forward, all first-party releases will be included within that subscription, day and date of release. I think that's fucking huge. Honestly, that's, I think, one of the boldest, bravest, most interesting moves to be made by one of the big console manufacturers in quite some time. I was already a subscription since the trial code came with my Xbox One X. I thought, why not? I'm going to get in on this because it's always good to see what happened in that sort of front. And I can handle £8 a month. And now that they're bringing out this is crazy. This is insane. So Sea of Thieves, State of Decay 2, Halos, Forzas, Gears of Wars, all of those will be included within that £8 a month price.
Crackdown 3.
Crackdown 3. Yeah, exactly. That was the one I forgot there, I think, from the more recent releases. Yeah. So guys, I mean, how did you take this news?
I wasn't sure whether to believe it. I did have to check the calendar and see if it's April, but yeah, it's insane. It's a no-brainer, isn't it? I was on the fence about Xbox Game Pass because, like you, I buy lots of games. Most of the stuff that's in that package I already have, and the stuff that I haven't got, I'd struggle to find time to play it. But yeah, the stuff that's going to be put in this pack now, starting with Sea of Thieves, is stuff that I would buy anyway. So if I can get it for £8 a month, or actually nothing, because I've got a few codes for probably about 3 months worth of subscription stacked up, ready to use for when I felt like I was going to use it. I can play Sea of Thieves for nothing now. So yeah, it's a brilliant deal for me. And probably once I'm in, I suppose their thinking is once you're in, you'll keep it going, because it is only £8. That's not a vast sum if they're going to start including big gun titles like that.
Well, I mean, even once you're in, if you're paying £8 a month, you're looking at 12 months. You know, you think of it that way. You're paying for it, you know, but with 2 big game releases. If 2 big game releases come out that you want in that year, you've now covered your cost. And I think, you know, on top of all those little games, what I like about Game Pass is when I subscribed and I started poking through it, I found a lot of games that I hadn't bought that I wouldn't mind trying. And so I've kind of like, you know, I downloaded about like 20 games just to give them a shot. And, you know, I've discovered stuff I wouldn't not necessarily have played because I wouldn't necessarily have bought them at first glance. But because they're part of the subscription, I've given them a go. And this just shows, I think, Microsoft's commitment to this whole concept of game as a service. It's only going to get bigger for them. You know, how long until we get Game Pass exclusive games? That's the next thing, isn't it? Much like, you know, the Netflix model. You know, how long until that starts to appear? I don't think it'll be that long, honestly. I think they're really getting behind it. Nobody would have predicted this kind of move from Microsoft. You know, this is a big aggressive, you know, new stance to take. Joel, are you won over on this, or are you?
I'm actually thinking it's very exciting. So am I won over? Yes, because much like your Netflix service, just filling it up with old crap. Well, it's not necessarily crap, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Isn't necessarily going to onboard everybody. It's great for people who may have just bought an Xbox and don't really buy many games. But yeah, for people like us or who are regular gamers, it doesn't really offer that much value. This takes it from offering little value to me to offering, like you say, a staggering amount of value. It's 2 or 3 AAA titles that you may already buy anyway is you know, you're now going to get for free, and it literally pays for itself. And it solves another dilemma of kind of potentially ownership of games, because obviously if you buy games digitally, you know, you're purely buying a license to play that game. It's got so many caveats in it about, you know, those games may disappear one day. Game Pass kind of solves that complexity because you don't feel like you're ever owning it. It's just like a subscription rental service, and you'll get comfortable with the idea that content will come and go, I guess, as time moves on. I think it's a very bold move. Think about EA Access and, you know, their first steps to thinking about trying it, and how cautious they were about, well, we'll give you 10 hours of our sort of brand new titles to sort of try them and things, and then you can buy them at a discount, and then perhaps 1 year after they've released, we'll start rolling them into the service for free. This is the opposite end of the scale. It's just literally, day one launches, they'll be there. I think it's fantastic. It certainly changed my mind. I'm just holding off on the hope that what they'll do is they'll wrap it up into a sort of Xbox Live Platinum, I guess, or something like that. So you get your Live and your Game Pass all wrapped up as one sort of monthly sub for, I don't know how much they'll charge, £10 a month maybe or something. So yeah, I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, it does position Microsoft quite strongly as well. When as a platform that's future-proofed, they're beyond anyone else in the console space now quite comfortably, because to back up this Game Pass service, they've got backwards compatibility, native compatibility with Xbox 360, even original Xbox titles now. And as that grows, they will have the ultimate platform for a sort of a consistent gaming experience and a subscription model that can offer you everything. PlayStation kind of are toying in that space, but it's only via streaming, and the game selection is very limited. Yeah,
now seems like a half measure. It doesn't compare it to what Xbox is doing now. You know, we've talked about this generation quite a bit over the last few years and stuff. You know, and what Xbox has had to do to compete And I think, you know, it's great when competition really drives innovation like this. And I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a company having to evolve and move forward and change its way of doing things to compete with Sony's kind of like very firm, strong leadership positioning right now, but very much old school. They're quickly becoming this sort of almost a relic of how things were done in the previous generation. And I think people like that to a degree, because there's a level of comfort to it. But, you know, look at where Xbox originally tried to position themselves with the digital only, always online model before the console came out. And look at how we're almost back there. And I think it's taken some time to win people over, but slowly, you know, but surely Microsoft are moving that platform in that direction. And I think that is the future. People couldn't swallow it so much then, but
it's
I think
almost as if people are fine with it as long as you don't tell them it's happening, right?
Yeah, people are. I was always a defender of that original concept, but I think it's hilarious to see that quietly. You know, it's not like Xbox is failing. It's, you know, tens of millions of units behind Sony. Yeah, but at the same time, it's still sold tens of millions of units. You know, like it's a big selling console, much like PlayStation is. It's a very good time for consoles in general, with Switch as well. So I think, you know, seeing this innovation, then we don't even consider Nintendo in this discussion, do we? Of course, that's the funny thing. They're not even in the same ballpark for the sort of moving forward, but that's fine. They've got their own niche. They'll do their own thing. But I think E3 could be very exciting for what Joel suggested. Basically, I think we're going to see probably I think they can't justify Game Pass at that price. So I think it will somehow get wrapped together with Xbox Live. I think that makes so much sense now, that you bring those two properties together and have like a giant overarching subscription. You know, simplify it for the consumer, really push it. You know, maybe increase your games with gold offerings as well, the free games you're going to get. You know, tie it all together, Game Pass, games with gold, all of that under one umbrella, and I think you've got an absolute winner. No, it's genius, man. I'm so excited to see how well it's done. I mean, and like Richard said, a lot of people say, I've got some free codes, I'm holding on to some free codes. Yeah, sure. But I honestly think right now, value, you know, the value can't be argued with. You can't ignore the value proposition of this. That's what I said when I posted this news. It's now Game Pass is impossible to ignore as a really good value additive service for the platform. So pretty excited, I have to say. Let's quickly talk about Nintendo then in connection to that, because their paid online service is going to launch in September. Wasn't it meant to come out like a couple of months after the console? Did I forget?
No, yeah, they did delay it. They delayed it
and delayed it and delayed it and delayed it and delayed it. So this is offering a form of games and service, isn't it? Because they're going to give classic NES, SNES, potentially era games away as part of the subscription. Is that correct? I remember them talking about that, Joel.
They've said. They've kind of changed their messaging on this, because originally they came out and said there'd be a cycle of maybe a couple of games a month that you could rotate in and out with this subscription. So after a month, you would lose that game, the NES or the SNES, and you'd have another one. They've rolled back on that and said that there will now be an archive that you can pick freely from. Who knows what it contains, but that's a step forward. But there's still no word on what else this platform is. They originally delayed it when the app came out because it was so poorly serviced. There's basically no functionality there beyond offering some voice chat through a phone rather than the console itself. And I'm not sure what they've done to address that problem, because people do not want it. So yeah, it's interesting that they've announced now, after all this time, that it is coming in September without actually telling us what that means. You'd think they'd have learnt the lesson and given us something to look forward to, really. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm greatly confused as to what this offering is, to be honest. I don't think anybody really knows, do they?
I don't think anyone really is anyone really actually interested in it? I think, what's it, £20 a year, isn't it? Is what the current initial get you in prices. And I think they'll be adding a new NES game, I think they said, to this archive, which it doesn't particularly excite me too much. I think
Okay.
Yeah, it's not. And then why? Yeah, the other question is, why do I need to pay for an online service for Nintendo? I'm sort of looking at my library of games, and I think the only one that I've actually played online has been Splatoon. Yeah. Every other game I've played multiplayer, but it's always been local with people in the same room, different switches or two people on one switch and things. So Mario Kart and ARMS. So yeah, I'm kind of. You're just gonna? Are they now? Does that mean that Splatoon Online is suddenly going to stop working if I don't pay the £20?
This is something I wasn't sure about. I don't know whether it's, the service is the app, and you just get that additional functionality. I'm doing air quotes of being able to do voice chat and arrange invitations on your phone. I've tried that once with you, Ben. It didn't really work that well, did it?
Nope.
So ever since then, I've just played multiplayer on the console as it comes. So it would be craziness, wouldn't it, for them to block that? Presumably, they're just charging for the app and whatever extra functionality that brings. But God, I hope it's more than they've got in there now.
Be curious to see. I mean, I imagine we'll hear. Well, they don't really do E3, but they'll have a direct, won't they, at E3? So we'll see if any news comes out of that in June/July. I'm not sure when E3 is this year. I have to look that up. So, I mean, talking about a library of games. So this also ties in, of course, to the announcement we were just talking about with Xbox. So there's a rumor floating around that Xbox are looking to buy up publishers, developers, people to get under their house to make more first-party games. And this rumor kind of came about from a report indicating that the one they're looking at may be EA. Now, I think EA is absolute and utter bullshit. They're never going to buy EA. That's ridiculous. However, I wanted to pose this to you guys as kind of a hypothetical. If they were going to buy a publisher or developer, who would you like to see come under the Xbox banner? But then the problem is people are arguing the Xbox needs exclusives, first-party exclusives. I think the whole idea of exclusives tied to consoles is absolutely fucking bullshit. So I'm not a big fan of that anyway. But let's just say Microsoft are going to buy a studio, or a publisher. Who would you like to see them pick up?
Who's left?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Who's not under a giant umbrella already? Because you'd say like EA would give them BioWare, right? Which would be pretty fucking cool, right? I could see Microsoft doing a lot with a strong Western RPG developer. Yeah. But they've also already got Turn 10, who've pivoted with a new team, who sounds like they're making a new Fable game. So they've already got potentially a team ramped up for that kind of development.
Turn 10 doing that.
Oh, sorry, Playground, not Turn 10. I always get the two confused. Yeah, Playground. So the Horizon guys, not the Forza Motorsport guys.
That's it.
So yeah, I mean, so Joel, you mentioned the rumor of Valve.
I saw the rumor that, and naturally people are throwing names around. Now I think if you think about it backwards, in the sense of why might they want to be buying publishers, I think there is some potential. I think there's a reason to believe that Microsoft will be looking to purchase some content. I don't want to say publishers necessarily or studios, but I think they'll be after content. So if you look at Netflix and Amazon, which are currently the subscription models that they'll be inspiring them for Gamepass and things, what they need to do. Netflix and Amazon are spending billions on exclusive content because they know that content is key. Content is what will attract people to their services and keep them subscribing to watch things. So Microsoft. Perhaps this is the next stage for Game Pass. They've added their exclusives already. They've thrown in their content they've got, so they want to add more content to it now. So I can see there's probably some sense in Microsoft wanting to buy people, but I imagine that at any stage in time, like Microsoft will always be looking to buy people for acquisitions or anything. So yeah, I mentioned Valve earlier. I'd just seen some rumors that people were saying they were sniffing around Valve, but we were just having a brief chat before. I have no idea how much Valve would cost. No one really knows how much money Valve make. They don't really publish much of the figures for the income they get from Steam and stuff. Everything's pretty much estimated. I think Valve, they're big, but Valve don't also make content. They're just a publishing platform really these days. They're very little on the content front. Now, Microsoft maybe specifically buy rights or ownership of something like Half-Life or something like that off Valve. I could see something about that, something that gives them a brand that they can then build the games for.
So what you're talking? This is the interesting thing. Microsoft has shown with the purchase of Mojang and Minecraft that they are willing to own a big brand that will then still exist and get published on other platforms, right? So they've already shown that they are cool with that. So this acquisition, this idea that Joel was describing, that they want content for their service, but that only makes sense if it's exclusive content, right? So what they grab EA or Valve and they say, you know, so in EA's case, the next Mass Effect will only be available on Xbox Game Pass, right? Wow. That just sounds nuts. That just sounds like you're gonna lose more money than you're gonna gain in subscribers to your service. Do you know what I mean?
What if they buy the rights to Mass Effect from EA, as opposed to let's not say they won't buy EA, but I think of EA's probably main income stream is going to be their sports games, and they'll want them to be multi-platform.
Yes,
I don't think they'll be willing to give that up. But the other content around that, franchises like Mass Effect and things like that, might be up for grabs, you know, for the right price.
And what you did with Gears of War?
Pardon?
Like they did with Gears of War, they bought the rights for that.
And that's maybe
what
that was
Microsoft
always
might be doing.
That was always see what that's a bit difficult because you're already talking about something that was already exclusive to the platform. What we're kind of talking about here is if they bought the rights to Mass Effect, does that mean they remove any access to any of the previous trilogy from any other system?
PlayStation and Switch. Well, it was never on the Switch, but it would be the PlayStation because I believe they would probably keep it on the PC. They still have an interest in PC gaming, and so
I'm sure Game Pass will reach to that as well.
Xbox and PC. Game Pass will, any games that are cross-play will work. So if you've got a Game Pass subscription, you can play Game Pass games so on your PC. So Sea of Thieves should work, for example. That's been confirmed.
That's cool.
So I think they may buy some individual studios, but I think they may go after some key bits of content.
See, it's weird at this point with Microsoft. I almost think they ain't that bothered about exclusives. They're really not. They're trying to become this catch-all platform that appeals to everyone, which has got, you know, I think they just want to broaden what they've got rather than narrowing it. I really don't think
Why do you think they're not bothered about exclusives?
Because where are they, Richard?
They've canned them all.
They scale bound. I mean, like, you know, Fable went, but Fable went when Molyneux went, really, didn't it? I mean, that wasn't really there.
Money into it for a while. I don't think it's right to say that they're not interested in exclusives. They've just botched them for a long time. So you've got to look at the motivation for this rumor that they're buying up studios. Well, why? What's the motivation? The Mojang thing is different. They bought a long-running platform, really. It's not just a studio that will build games for them in the future. They bought Minecraft knowing that is a multi-billion-dollar industry that will run for years and years and years, all the merchandising rights, so everything associated with that. That's a different proposition to buying a studio that will build games for your platform. And the question is that something they're interested in? Do they want another Alan Wake or Quantum Break? Would they want to buy someone like Remedy?
Well, they wouldn't buy Remedy because they make a game once every fucking 6 years. So, you know, they're probably not interested in something. They need a catalog. If you're talking about wanting to like really, that's why people are talking about publishers rather than developers, because it's like they're talking about buying up an entire catalog of titles, which they could then pivot into an exclusive lineup.
So they want more IP then, essentially. Is what
Right. But stuff that can come out quick. I think that this rumor is so much fucking bullshit though, because it's been created off of the back of Phil talking about, you know, they still care that they're looking and all this, and then it's just wishful thinking. It's just come out of people going, oh yeah, that'd be good, wouldn't it? That would solve all their problems. It's come out of completely nowhere. But I think
it runs the risk of making the same mistakes as the past as well. I mean, they bought Rare, they bought Lionhead. They've run studios into the ground before because they've bought them and not exploited their strengths.
Yep.
So yeah, I'd rather they didn't buy anybody if that's going to happen again.
I think second party deals are much more likely, like Joel was inferring, than first party purchases. Yeah, I think deals with timed exclusives and the next iteration of this or that particular IP that's being developed, but you know, not the whole library. I think that's what they'll be looking at doing more than, and that's what they've shown they've already been doing. So I suspect they'll just keep on that road. Okay. So that's that, and it kind of ties in. So I'm trying to think where we should take this next. So we got some like delay announcements, which are always fun. So talking about EA, Anthem, guys, Anthem, it's been delayed into 2019. I know you're shocked. I know you're all very shocked. Try not. Don't cry, Joel. Stop crying, Joel. Joel, hold back the tears, Joel. Come on, get it together, man. Get it together. God.
It's but the funniest thing about it is that it's not that it's been delayed. It's that EA were trying to say it's not a delay. But I actually went back to look at the E3 press conference. Just did they actually say a date? Maybe they didn't. Maybe they're right. It isn't a delay, and they did. They printed on the screen that it would be like fall 2018.
It's not a delay, Joel. It's a tactical withdrawal. No. They've gone, no, we're going to position Battlefield at the end of 2018 instead, and we don't want to cannibalize those potential sales with Anthem being released as well. So we're gonna tactically withdraw Anthem into 2019.
From what I read, the was it fall 2018 date was never true. So from a development point of view, it was never realistic that they would ever achieve that date. So I suppose to say it's not a delay is correct. if your basis is that was always a lie.
Yeah. Well, I think when we talked about it, none of us. I remember when we talked about that after E3. Not one of us thought that game was coming out the following year in 2018. No. Not a single one of us. I don't think anybody anywhere in video games really believed that was coming out this year. It's just not possible. I guess so. Yeah, connected Battlefield. We've got an unnamed, unannounced Battlefield game. That's not really a surprise. It goes Battlefield, Battlefront, Battlefield, Battlefront, doesn't it, at the moment? So a new Battlefield game isn't anything. The rumor is that it's a Bad Company game. So I don't know if anybody cares or remembers Bad Company particularly fondly, but I'm not that bothered, I have to say.
I was a big fan of Bad Company too. I played the multiplayer on that a lot. I really enjoyed that. I much preferred it to Battlefield 3 and 4. So.
Oh, okay. I really like Battlefield 4 when it worked. So and then we had another announcement. Was that Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming out October 26th?
No, it isn't.
No, it's not, guys. You put a release date down in October, November, it means it will be spring of the following year.
So what that actually should have said was that Rockstar will announce the delay of Red Dead Redemption 2 on October the 26th this year. That's what that really meant.
Yeah. I mean, these long tail announcements, I'm starting again, these feel very much like a relic of the previous generation. I think it's time that developers stopped and publishers stopped fucking doing this. I mean, like, let's do the Bethesda route, announce a game at EA, or at least, confirm a rumor of a game at EA, and then the release date's 3 months later or 4 months later, not fucking 2 years later. It's so stupid. I understand why it happens with Rockstar, because all Take-Two have to show their fucking investors is the release date for the next GTA or Red Dead. And that's literally how they stay in business. So I understand why it exists for them, but it's really unnecessary for an Anthem or so many of these other games to get announced so far in advance. Only it doesn't put pressure on the developer.
Yeah, it's quite irresponsible as well from a consumer point of view. When you walk into game and you see £5 for a Red Dead Redemption 2 deposit, if you want to pre-order it now, it's 2 years away at the point that they were taking pre-orders for that, taking actual money.
That's game though, isn't it? They're just literally there is, there's no guarantee that game will be around in 3 weeks, let alone for 2 years. Don't be a fool and give them any money up front. God. At
this point, it's just like giving money to charity. So just think of it like a service. Like game, good old game. Here's a £5. Have a good one, lads. But no, I do think Red Dead's the following year, isn't it? It's probably going to end up going head to head with Anthem actually. Which is a fight Anthem will lose. I almost wonder as well about Anthem. This is a game in the Destiny 2 vein of social shooter, and considering where that player base is already going and how sour and bitter and unhappy they are with everything that Activision is doing, I think maybe we're getting delays on this because EA are pivoting real hard, and Casey Hudson is probably course correcting hard on where that game was going, because the tide is already turning against these sort of shared world shooters. Destiny is just, God, it's just fucking going down in flames right now. So I think maybe so Casey came up with the Anthem idea. It was his project after Mass Effect 3. He then left BioWare. He went to Microsoft and he's come back to BioWare, and I can just imagine him going into the room where they showed him where Anthem was at, and he's just got his head in his hands, and he's just like, "What have you done to my baby?" And it's just like he's probably just desperately trying to pull it out of this fucking death spiral of microtransactions and fucking awful shit like that. So yeah, maybe that's why we're seeing a delay. You know, maybe they're trying to fix a horrible mess of a game. You know, so it wouldn't be a surprise after Mass Effect Andromeda, would it? After what happened there. So
the backlash
what do you guys
from
think?
Battlefront 2. I think there are certain things that have happened in the past year that will give them a lot of cause to perhaps go back and rethink some of the original plans around it.
You'd hope.
Microtransactions back into Battlefront, have they? On just tangentially,
they've kind of said they're going to. That this came out of the financials as well. That they're going back in. They haven't said what that will be, but I can only imagine it will be cosmetic only. At this point, I mean, they'd be absolutely insane. So yeah, that sold 1 million under projection. I think they did 7 instead of 8 or something like that. So that was a flop, a failure for them. Though they do put ridiculously high numbers on these projections now. I think they're just dreaming half the time. So yeah, that's. We will see, won't we? I want Anthem to be great, man. That demo at E3 looked fucking fantastic, but I almost don't want to play a Destiny 2 style shooter now. Considering how much I love Destiny and how burnt out and fed up I got of Destiny 2 and how quickly I got over that game, I really don't want that as the experience from Anthem. So we shall see, won't we? We'll see more at E3, almost certainly. So off of that, we talking about, we had a nice announcement. Did you guys see the season pass announcement for Far Cry 5?
I did. I'm really excited.
I've never
sounds brilliant.
I've not looked forward to a season pass as much as this in years. Like, finally, they get the right idea. Like,
do you know what it reminded me of?
Blood Dragon.
No, Red Dead Redemption.
Yes.
Undead Nightmare. It was just the bonkers other thing that you needed to want to go back to that game. You wanted, same great gameplay, just in a bonkers alternate reality. And it's like, yes, give me more of that.
I love the idea that instead of let's try and force more fucking story on top of this 60 hours you've already put into this game that you're probably done with. You're probably done with it at this point. Let's just use the engine. Let's give the teams a break. Let's let them make something fun and silly using the tech we've now built for this game. And it's brilliant. So we're going to get zombies with various B-movie kind of settings. We're going to get Martians, and we're going to get fucking Vietnam. I mean, like, what? So this sounds incredible. I literally haven't looked forward to a piece of DLC as much as this season pass in a very, very long time. I'm still a bit on the fence as to what this game is actually going to be, because there's a lot of rumors that it was heavily sanded down around the very political edges due to, how should we say, like, the CEO types and the boardroom guys playing it and going, no, we are not going this far in that direction. So has it been homogenized into sort of a bland mess? I really hope not, because some of the ideas around Far Cry 5 have been really cool. But we will see. That's April, March, April.
Yes, I think it's March. We can just look that up in the background if you can distract the audience.
I'm letting Richard. I'm not referring to Richard right now because he's currently enjoying the fruits of his wife's baking.
I saw that. He's got a massive cake, and he's not even offered us.
Not even a crumb. Yeah. Not even the scraps from his overabundant table. You gluttonous bastard. Yeah, that's right, Richard. You can hear me. I know you can't reply, but you're enjoying your cakes. I was on mute, stuff in my face. Hey.
I spilt some of the delicious topping and had to wipe it up. So it's very nice.
What is it? What kind of cake are you dealing with here? Props to your wife.
Chocolate.
Look at it. That's massive.
Thing with I don't know. It's like, Sarah, what's this topping?
It's vanilla frosting.
Vanilla frosting. There you go.
There you go. Sounds all right, man. Get your laughing gear around that. That is what you should be doing at 11's time on a Sunday, which is where we're at right now. That makes a lot of sense. Yes, it's a little window into Richard's culinary life. Yeah, it's very good. So did we get a confirmation on the date, Joel?
Yeah, I said March the 27th. So
I was too busy watching Cake and wishing I had one. So I hope it still has the teeth it seemed to imply it was gonna. I really, really do. But I'd be surprised if it does.
It kind of has to, doesn't it? Because it's not going to appeal to anybody if it's that sort of sanded down, as you say.
Sanitized. Like that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. So that's kind of all the news. Am I forgetting anything? I'm sure I am. I mean, we've all just started trying out another games with Surface, games as a service, I should say, platform, which is Utomic.
I think that's how you pronounce it.
Utomic.
Utomic. I think is.
Yeah, which is basically Game Pass on PC. So it's a platform that you install and then you can download locally, not streaming, a selection of PC games from big hefty sort of AAA all the way down to lots of indie ones and cool little titles. I've got as far as installing the client. Has anybody got any further?
I've been playing a couple of games. We were just having a brief chat beforehand. I mean that. Yeah, I went through the library. I had a look through the library. I found some games that I've already played, so I put some ratings in for those. I then browsed the forums a bit, just sort of trying to find any tips maybe for a game where to start. As I said to you before, it's kind of what I was hoping is that if I went through and put some ratings in, that I'd possibly get like a curated list, like a Spotify style daily playlist of like, well, if you like these games, then perhaps try this one you may never have heard of, or people who like the same games as you have also liked this. But I didn't get that, at least. But it's still the client's just in beta, so I don't know if that's a feature that's coming or not. Hopefully, I'll have a dialogue with the people who are working on it soon to find out a bit more. But yeah, I've played a game called Hue. I picked that one out. That looked quite interesting. Ben, I know you've played that. It's very enjoyable, very well presented little indie game. It's quite a decent little platforming puzzler thing. I also installed Metro Last Light. I've never played the game, but I just wanted to see how good the service was at getting me download, how long it would take to download a game. It was pretty fast. It hit near the peak speed of my broadband, so that was good. I played a kind of mobile phone port game called I think it's just called Just Another Line or something. Let me just have
a long title. Just Another Line or something.
No, it's just One More Line. Sorry, which is kind of it reminded me of Super Hexagon a bit, except flying along and you've got to lasso yourself onto sort of little anchor points basically, and you orbit them until you let go. So you've got to sort of navigate your way through procedurally generated path of anchors, and you can't hit the side or hit an anchor, otherwise you lose. So yeah, that was pretty fun.
I think we're going to be trying this out, all three of us, on variously from Richard's old Surface Pro through my mid-tier was good 3 years ago gaming laptop to Joel's modern PC gaming rig. So I think we'll probably talk about that a little bit more, a fair bit more on the next podcast, where we've all had a chance to actually try it out, because I feel like at this point I don't think I've really heard anybody talk about this. And I think as an idea, it's a pretty cool one. So
the client itself looks quite nice. It's clean design, easy to find stuff. And it's obvious they've got plans for the future for it as well. There's it looks like they're going to be building achievements into it, which I know is in stuff like
Steam and stuff.
Steam and obviously on consoles that's a common thing. But there'll be achievements in there. It lets you set up a gamer tag, so I presume there'll be some sort of friends lists curation there, but that isn't there yet. So yeah, it's very early days, it looks like. But
I went into the real-time strategy games and I was quite happy. That's like what I like to play on PC, and I was like, man, there's some old obscure weird shit here that I could have fun digging through. So yeah, I think we'll talk about that more next time. But for now, we shall leave it as we move on to the games we have reviewed recently on the website. I've done a bunch, so I should probably tick a few off before we get into the big, meaty titles, I think. I know Joel's got one to discuss as well. So I'll just mention that 2 games here that have been out on other platforms for quite a while, which is The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, first of all. Do you guys know it? You know this game? I imagine
I've played it. I've played it on the PC. So
I haven't played it, but it sounds like it's going to be my thing.
Well, I was kind of torn a bit on this one. I love a good walking sim, that's narratively driven, quite a linear experience. Now, the thing with Vanishing of Ethan Carter is that it presents itself like a very high resolution, looks wonderful on the X, by the way, walking simulator. But it's kind of more of actually an adventure game that encourages you to really sort of delve into every nook and cranny of every environment you go in and just poke everything. That's the way I describe it in the review. Like, there are these prompts in the game that come up with like text when you get quite close to them, and just poke at everything all the time. That seems to be the way of Ethercart. And I'd rather it had been a bit more of a funneled linear experience, because I actually really enjoyed the story and the narrative of it. And I like the characters, and I like the sort of twist ending and stuff like that. I just found that it was perhaps artificially extended, that it didn't need to be the sort of the quite lengthy experience that it was, where it could have been just more narratively focused. I mean, look, if you're going to poke around an environment, it's good that it is an absolutely stunning one. I mean, gorgeous on the X. Runs beautiful. The resolution, it just looks amazing, this game. However, it's quite an empty environment. So just going into literally every corner of like, you know, getting to the boundaries of the maps, because you just don't know where the next clue, the next trigger has been hidden. And I found that a little bit tedious. I mean, what did you think of it, Joel?
I was about, God, it was well over a year ago since I played this. So it's been on the PC a long time.
Yes. Yes.
I can remember. Yes, as you go, it's not a funneled experience, so you can get to the end of it and miss some of the. So you hit the trigger points, and each of those trigger points starts the little kind of a little bit of narrative or dialogue about a specific event and stuff. Some of them are very creative. I can remember one early on about chasing an astronaut that ends up with you kind of stranded in the space pod and stuff. But you can miss them, can't you? Yes. Which is the sad thing about the game. And it's also at times, I remember one as well, it being in a house and you have to walk through portals in a specific order that was really quite a bit of a pain in the butt. That was one of the low points of the title. As well as some culty stuff in a mine. I can remember some weird cult bit. It was okay. It was over. It was, it's not as good as What Remains of Edith Finch, I didn't think.
What's the balance then in this? Is there, how much is walkie-walkie and how much is touchy-touchy? Is there much interaction in this?
It's a lot of walkie-walkie until you find a touchy-touchy. But because it's not funneled, you're walkie-walkieing over a lot of areas you've already walkie-walkied before. I'm just going to keep calling it walkie-walkie. It's a walkie-walkie simulator from now on. I think that's the new Bxb term.
It sounds to me like it's going to be similar to Everyone's Gone to the Rapture.
Yes, actually, that's in Everyone's Gone to the Rapture, it's pretty easy to miss things. But the one good thing about Everyone's Gone to the Rapture is that they had that glowing light that you could follow, that kind of you could follow it through the world just to pick up all the main story points, basically, and everything else was peripheral.
It still felt like you were missing a lot doing that, but at least it gave you that main line through.
That's what this is missing.
The different here with Carter is that it's there's elements that you will hit a progress block if you don't find the next trigger. So that's the thing, and that's because there's no direction to the next trigger. You can do a lot of just retreading and stuff, and that can be quite frustrating. So it's a cool. The story's really good. It's like a murder mystery with supernatural elements, and that's really, really fun to experience. So I think it's worth doing. And if you get a chance, Richard, it'll almost certainly be on sale. Like I say, it looks stunning on the X, like really pretty. Great showcase. I took screenshots. When you're just taking screenshots of like the landscape you're looking out over, the game's pretty when you're doing that. That was one. Then the other game I reviewed, possibly even older. It's been out for about 3 years on other platforms. It's Axiom Verge on the Switch. Now, have you guys played Axiom Verge?
I haven't.
No, I kind of want to.
I thought, Richard, you would have. It looks like one of your games, man.
Totally. It keeps popping up in sales for like £8-10, and I'm like, maybe a bit too much. Maybe I haven't got time to play it just yet, but I do want to play that.
I was always tempted by it as well. So when I got the opportunity to give it a go on the Switch because of this multiverse edition, this edition that's just been released on the Switch is the physical release of the game, which comes with like soundtracks and maps and posters and all this shit. That's not what I got. I just got a digital code. So I'm not even sure why, that the actual Switch version came out in October digitally. So it's just like, hey, whatever. It's an excuse to get a code. I don't care. I want to play it. So I boot it up, and this game is just a very, very, very well constructed Metroidvania. And I don't normally enjoy them that much because I find the navigation isn't always fun. I'm not always a big fan of gating behind, the weapon pickups and all that sort of stuff. I find like sometimes Metroidvanias can obfuscate progress just for the sake of it. But I think the balance is struck really well with Axiom Verge. Like it's it's taking on modern sensibilities and ideas and then sort of retrofitting them into this very well constructed sort of slightly sort of throwback Metroidvania kind of look, but it feels modern at the same time. So it's got great jumping, great shooting, great art design, fun story, really good music, astoundingly good music, and it wins because it's on the Switch, man, and I can fucking take that anywhere. So it's just like that will always give me a plus, you know, every single time that I can sit on my couch, on the bus, at work, on my lunch break, playing that game. So you know, that's always beneficial to me.
Yeah,
I absolutely love
while
that.
they've got no Metroid game on the Switch yet.
So yeah, I'd say definitely worth checking out. I'm not going to go into detail. Like I said, the game's been out for 3 years. So if you know, probably most of you are aware of what it is, or at least, or have seen it in a sale if you haven't already picked it up. So I definitely reckon the Switch version is just as good, runs really nice, looks great, sharp as anything, you know, looks fantastic on the Switch. So yeah, definitely worth checking out on there as well. Okay, I need a little break. So before I do any more of my games that I've reviewed, Joel, talk to us about a little fighting game you've been playing recently from a license that you have a very, very, very long-standing love affair with.
Yeah, no, I'm a big Dragon Ball Z fan. I watched it throughout my childhood several times, and I watched it several times at uni as well.
Dragon Ball Z, it's called.
Yeah, I'll go with Z. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, yeah, so Dragon Ball FighterZ. Kind of a this is how I start my review. Basically, it's a bit of I'm a big Dragon Ball Z fan, but I'm not a massive fighting game fan, which is normally a bit unfair on a game when you're about to review it. But anyway, I go into it because, you know, if you think about it, Dragon Ball Z fighting game, they kind of should marry up quite nicely and stuff. And so what we've got, well, first of all, let's just talk about the visuals of this game. It looks stellar. It's amazing what they've done. It just looks like the anime at certain points in time. They've done some very clever trickery with the way that the screen's rendered. So backgrounds and everything are, you know, hitting the full 60 kind of frames a second. So they all sort of scroll smoothly and that sort of thing. But the characters have dumbed down the rendering. I don't know exactly what to, something like 10 or 15 frames a second. So it really captures that sort of jerky, stuttery cartoon feel of animation. So it looks amazing, and that coupled with the way that it's done cell shading, so they're all still 3D models. It's all 2.5D per se, so 3D rendered just in a but you can only play it in a two-dimensional perspective. But yeah, the way you've got the cell shading that goes around that as well is really, really well done. So yeah, staggeringly looks brilliant. The audio is fantastic as well. It's all cut from the all follows the sort of original Japanese style and stuff. So the game's all subtitled, all the dialogue's in Japanese. So the characters go through, all the sounds are in Japanese. So yeah, presentation wise, this is like a brilliant. It's as good as when you think of how the South Park Stick of Truth looked like being in an episode of South Park. It's like that. It's just perfect in that sense. But yeah, just through to the fighting game. So it took a while to get. So naturally, I start the game, I go straight into the story mode and things, and it felt like I'd been, going through bits of this game for about 30 minutes before it really actually wanted me to have a fight with it, which is a bit annoying. I cited in my review that the sort of setup of the game, the menu structure and all that kind of thing just really feels inhibiting. What I really want is just the game to boot to a main menu and just sort of like single player, multiplayer, arcade versus get to a fight, pick your character and go. But they've really sort of put all these layers of an onion over the top of it that make it quite difficult to get down to the crux of what you need. So after a while of digging through, yes, the game has got an arcade mode. Was what I found most enjoyable, which is literally your classic kind of you've got a sort of tree of different combat arcs and characters and bunches that you're going to fight, and you just sort of progress. You pick your team and you just progress through them one by one. And yeah, it's a multiplayer mode where you can just go online and get your ass absolutely handed to you by someone who's already mastered all the controls. But there are some interesting things in the multiplayer mode, because you can obviously go back and watch the replay of a match, and you can see all the control inputs from both players. So you can sit and see how certain combos are achieved and things. The controls are actually good and simple. Not quite as simple as something like Smash Brothers, but nowhere near as complex as sort of games like Mortal Kombat. All ultimate moves and things are literally sort of like downright or down towards and then a button, or down back and a button, basically. And there's nothing more complicated than that. Stitching the moves together to make combos is kind of where they I think they're trying to appeal to the more hardcore kind of fighting player. So yeah, it's quite easy. It's quite nice to play through in arcade, and you can simply just keep hitting the X buttons and stuff, and that builds up some nice pretty combos. And you can throw in your ultimates, you can swap characters so you can swap characters mid-fight, and they can be part of the combo as well, so you can get them to come and help you with the combo, or to switch out to another one and get them to throw in an ultimate and stuff. So yeah, it's good fun. I quite, it was, as a fighting games goes, it was okay and stuff. But like I say, it's the story mode was really just like so much dialogue, such long cutscenes. It was boring. I really just wanted to get into the crux of just fighting. So I just don't see why the point of the story mode really. It feels sort of
so as a fan of Dragon Ball, the story didn't do anything for you.
No, the narrative didn't particularly excite me either, because obviously they just set it up as a kind of typical alternate reality. Something's gone wrong. You can basically possess other characters, and you've got to go around and steadily rescue everyone one by one. It's just kind of, standard fare, really. It's not that exciting. The fact that it's wrapped up in Dragon Ball, I think they tried to go for something where they make it feel a bit like an episode of Dragon Ball per se, because you've got long sequences of like Bulma and Goku talking and things like this, but it just didn't. At the end of the day, it's kind of like, no, the real meat of this game is in the fighting, and that's what I kind of want to get to. So yeah, it just didn't really do much for me, to be honest. It's a kind of similar, I guess, in the sense to the Xenoverse games, where there is sort of a narrative there and things, but it's purely to facilitate edging you steadily through characters and learning new moves and that kind of thing, which is fine. It keeps you going, it keeps a bit of variety, but yeah, the story itself is, it's not that exciting. Certainly not as good as the story I've in Dragon Ball Z, which is fantastic. But anyway, yeah, it just ultimately it kind of just felt, what it really lacked to me was the kind of theatre and drama of Dragon Ball. It's very fast and frantic, whereas Dragon Ball has some smaller frantic moments, but in general it's slower paced. It's a lot of dialogue, it's lots of teasing each other, lots of powering up and sort of huge dramatic scenes and things like that. It didn't really manage to capture that aspect of fighting in Dragon Ball. That's what I thought I preferred Xenoverse. Xenoverse is felt a bit more free. You could get up and fly and try and run away and sort of then pull in other characters in to help you and that kind of stuff. Whereas this is it's just a fighting game in a Dragon Ball skin. It's sort of, you get down there and you just battle quickly to the death. So it kind of missed the mark on that aspect of it for me. So as a fighting game, I think there's probably a lot of appeal to fans of fighting games. It is a good fighting game. As a Dragon Ball Z game, though, it just didn't really do it for me. So
okay. No, that's fair enough. It's accessible though, isn't it? Because the fighters all share the same kind of move sets, don't they? So
yeah, sorry, correct, very good point. Yes, it's like Smash Brothers. The move sets are all the same. Everyone's ultimate move is triggered the same way. Your sort of general like energy attacks all work the same way. Now, obviously, what the character actually does is varied or unique to them, but control input wise, it's nice. You can just jump between the different characters very easy. It's not like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter where you'll master one character or maybe two. Yeah, you can play with anybody and have generally a good laugh. So
do you think that's because Dragon Ball Z is just for very young children?
You beat me to it.
I think it appeals to like many things back when they were first released, where they were designed to appeal for young children, but you carry that through to your adulthood now.
Baby's first fighting game. Yeah, but I want to Dad, can I play for...
You get your son doing it. Get your son on it. He might enjoy it more than you, Joel, because he might be better than you. Sounds like, to be honest, mate.
He's just about learnt to. I've just got him to move the character around and interact in Stardew Valley. That's the
amazing
his gaming career at the moment. That's
fucking adorable. So cool. Okay, yeah. I mean, you're not alone in this sentiment. I've definitely heard similar from everybody. I mean, it's a shame. It's a weird criticism, isn't it? Like, but I can kind of see where you're coming from. The fact that it's too much just frantic action when it comes to the fighting and not enough the quiet moments, because that's what makes a good TV show of anything. You know, it's not, if you just watch a TV show literally of just people like hitting each other all the time, I don't know, something like the Saban stuff, like Power Rangers comes to mind. That's why I've never been able to get into it, because it's just so much just boring fighting. You don't give a shit because you don't understand any of the sort of the consequences or the reason for any of it. So yeah, I guess I can kind of see where you're coming from. Yeah, I like the fact that it's a good enough fighting game and not a good Dragon Ball Z game. I think that's a good way of putting it. That's why I sent it to you. I knew you'd have the knowledge, Joel. So that's fair enough. I'm going to tick off another couple of smaller games. I'm also kind of trying to struggle to remember it because it was actually reviewing it around the Game of the Year time when I played this, but I haven't talked about it on the podcast, I don't think, because it was all Game of the Year stuff, which is Flying Tigers, Shadows over China, which is a rare kind of flying combat sim type game that has appeared on the I think it's on Xbox and PS4, and I think it's been out on PC for a little while now. But basically, it's World War II, and it's a theater of war I wasn't particularly familiar with. It was a group of US and sort of an international US, UK kind of Air Force pilots that actually resigned their commissions so they could unofficially go over to China to support the Chinese Air Force and the Chinese ground troops in their war against Japan in World War II. And it's not, and like over Burma and places like that. And it's really not an area or a history of that, conflict I had any knowledge of. So the fact that the missions and the campaign is very story driven and based in reality with lots of text before missions explaining the sort of historical significance of what you're doing, I thought was really cool. And I enjoyed it because I was learning something. And then the flying game, you can play either very sim heavy or quite arcadey. You can switch it to however you want, really. You can make it as difficult or as easy as you like. And have a good time shooting down horrible Nazis, which is always pleasant. Or not in this case, Nazis, sorry, horrible Japanese people, I should say. They were friends with the Nazis, so in my mind, they're just as bad. So, that was cool. That was a cool little flying game. I thought, considering it's like a budget title, a low price title, I thought the environments looked plenty nice. The planes were modeled nicely. The flying physics felt good. There's beyond just the story mode, there are just, go up and dogfight. There's like a free roam mode. And then there's a multiplayer suite as well. So there's plenty of features in this game. I have no idea how many people are playing it and if the multiplayer will be worth it. But if you're at all interested in a theater of war during World War II, you might not know about, and you're kind of interested in playing one of those dogfighting games that you might not have played in a while, I'd say, there are much worse options than Flying Tigers to check out on Xbox, which is where I reviewed it. So yeah, any questions about that? Because it was what feels like a year ago since I reviewed it. So, nope.
Just looking at a video, looks quite nice.
It's fine.
Looks perfectly pleasant, doesn't it?
I enjoyed it. I like learning stuff. I like learning about. I've always been interested in World War II because I was what young man growing up in Britain isn't taught all about World War II at some point in school, and therefore finds tanks and planes and ships and all that stuff interesting. So I definitely was curious about that theater, especially as, true story, my grandfather actually served on some form of military vessels around Burma at that point in time. So I had a bit of a personal connection to it. So that helped me be even more interested. So that was cool. So I played that, and I also played another kind of sim, a very different kind of sim. I played Railway Empire on the Xbox, and this is get your trains out, lads.
That sounds dull, then.
I mean,
what you have to do is you have to win franchises from the UK government and then rip off your consumers by running poor services whilst your staff all strike.
When you say win, you just mean get handed them with absolutely no governance whatsoever.
Yes. Well, you have to bribe the government. You have to bribe the officials up front. That's how it starts.
Well, let me tell you guys, it's full of corruption, but in a very different era. So we're talking early railway expansion across the United States. Again, a period of history I didn't know much about, beyond the fact that I know they basically used awful types of very low income / slave labor to construct a lot of the railway network across the United States. Other than that, can't say I knew a lot. And surprise, game doesn't touch on that much. But to be fair, I actually found the historical aspects of the campaign, once again, quite engaging and interesting, finding out about the sort of time periods in which different expansions of the network happened across the US and how important the railway empire being constructed across the US was to the growth of cities and the burgeoning economy of what became a very powerful nation, and how that it was the foundation, the backbone of a lot of that development. And actually, that was really cool to find out. And beyond that, Joel, I'm talking to you more than Richard because I know you're a bit of a sim head like me. You've got the micro minutiae of supply and demand between your different cities. You've got the timing aspect of getting different trains on the same tracks. You've got railway settings that, you're building tracks, you're putting crossings in, you're using signals, you're building different types of station, you're building warehouses, you're upgrading your trains, you've got a big old research tree. There is a shit ton in this game. And the only real problem I had with it, it looks really nice, by the way, I have to say. It looks lovely. I think it's even X enhanced. But the biggest problem is, like any of these games, when you're playing it on a console, you're just thinking to yourself the whole time, this would be better with a mouse and keyboard. I mean, you can't deny it would be better with a mouse and keyboard. And that's the only problem really to have that really with that game on Xbox. If, however, that's your only option to play it on a console, I would say if you're in the mood for historically set railway simulator, well, there's not a lot of competition, is there? So you might as well give it a punt on the Xbox. It's not for everyone, and I was never into trains as a kid. I've never been that guy, but as somebody who enjoys deep management simulators, yeah, it ticked the boxes for me on that front, definitely. Yeah, it was good. It was good fun. Yeah, check out Railway Empire. Surprisingly good, I have to say. It was solid. Really, really good. Okay. Richard, you've been quiet for most of this, and I'm going to let you take the lead on the big game from the last couple of weeks.
Oh, Monster Hunter.
Monster Hunter World. Yes.
Hunter World.
I might be reviewing it, but you've been playing it as well, and I know we've been playing together a few times. So I think I'll let you talk for a bit on that one.
Okay.
You've been quiet.
Monster Hunter then, eh? Let's explain what it is, I guess, because it's not exactly a familiar franchise for us in the West. Big old Japanese franchise, this, very big in Japan, and it's sort of a free roam multiplayer online game, although it can be played in single player quite successfully, where you hunt monsters, hence the title, and you salvage parts from those monsters to build armor, weapons, equipment, so you can hunt bigger monsters and do the same all over again. So there's the basic gameplay loop.
That's it. That's the game.
That's essentially it.
Yep.
But, it really packages it up with loads and loads of different stuff to do. So you can go fishing, you can have a net to go and find smaller life forms in the different environments
you can spend 20 minutes trying to work out how to use a menu.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, well, it's all extended gameplay time, isn't it? Value.
yeah, value, baby. That's all you want from games now. That's what a lot of people are obsessed with, isn't it? You put $60 down, you want at least 100 hours in a game, even if 50 of them are in a menu. That still counts. Still counts.
So, well, what do you want? It's a Japanese game. They do difficult menus. That's the idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, Monster Hunter's good, man. It's the first one I've properly got into. I've played one briefly on the PSP years ago, and the tutorials and those were so impenetrable. I think it was like.
Sorry, that one had tutorials. Oh well, that was different at least compared to the new one.
No, trust me, having no tutorials is way better, because the tutorials on the old Monster Hunter games ran into several hours before you could properly function as a monster hunter. So it'd be walls and walls of text about what each weapon did, how you use each item in the menu, as if the menus don't take long enough to use anyway. So it really took a long time to get over that hump and into the proper game. This has a much better onboarding process. It lets you start almost immediately. So you're starting out on small monsters. The combat is really quite simple. It's just a couple of different buttons, and there's lots of different weapons to choose from, but it tells you which ones are the easiest to start with by a star system. So the more stars, the easier it is for you to start with as a beginner, and just start hitting stuff and see what drops off.
You've forgotten the most important thing, Richard.
Your cat?
Your fucking cat, man. Your palico. How could you forget your palico? Like, that is literally the only thing that matters in this game.
Get to the cat. Yeah, so as long as you're out there hitting monsters, that much is cool. You get stuff off them, brilliant. But with you all the way is your little cat. It's not called a cat, it's called a palico for some reason. I'll carry on calling it a cat.
Yeah.
Because it is one.
Yes.
And
It rides a boat when it's in the water, Richard.
it rides a
It's
little
so
boat.
adorable.
It's got a little oar thing that just knocks about in the water on. It's so cute. So he follows you about, and he's got an assignable ability. So it starts off, he can heal you. So if you start getting into trouble with a monster, he'll chuck a big healing bug your way, and that'll explode all over you and drench you in
Healing juice.
life-giving properties.
Love the healing juice. Oh yeah.
Delicious. And he levels up. He can get better at doing that. He can be assigned different abilities, like setting traps for monsters, which you and I discovered on our last expedition.
We did.
There's plates plastering in the background.
It's one of those traps. You should really get your Palico under control, Richard. He's just a flipping rebel.
Yeah. So yeah, your cat's pretty cool. You can use him to do all sorts of stuff. Aside from your own cat, there's other cats that you'll encounter in the world as well, and they might just be on their own, and they'll high five your cat and team up and help each other out. Or there are more organized groups of cats.
Ooh.
And if you start enlisting them or become part of their group, they're kind of like the what are they called in Dark Souls? Guilds or something? You could sign up to different guilds.
You're asking the wrong person. No idea.
Do you know, Joel? Anyway, there's different groups that you can sign up to, and if you find them in the world, these cats, they run off. But you've got to chase them and swing over ravines and climb up trees, and if you eventually track them back to where they live, they're like, well done, mate. You can be in our gang now. And
sweet.
They'll help you out next time they see you. So you'll see cats lined up along cliff ridges or in trees with bugles going.
That's fucking amazing. I had no idea about this.
It's amazing. And so they'll shout down and say, mate, if you catch a monster around here, rather than kill it, do it by us and we'll help you catch it. And then they'll all come down and sort of Gulliver's Travel style tie it down.
Your own little Ewok army.
Yeah, it's amazing. So
I think that takes us, like, you've described the mechanics a little bit. I think that takes us to the overriding awesomeness of Monster Hunter, which is its incredible Japaneseness. It's otherness. It doesn't really feel like any other game. The way in which, not like what you described, that AI element interacts with the monster AI element, which interacts with you, and then you've got the way the other monsters interact with each other. Like there's a whole food chain.
Yeah, there's this whole
crazy,
exactly, a food chain, this ecosystem where the monsters literally feed off each other. So you might be hunting one monster. There's one early on, the Jagos, who have a great Jago version, and once you go hunting that, you'll see quite early on that he can eat lots of other animals around that environment and become like 3 times his normal size just by ingesting another beast, and it changes his strategy. And,
we were playing the other night, weren't we? We were hunting a Pookie. And then we got attacked by a second monster, Jago, and then another one came in, and it was like a three-way melee
battle,
while we were trying to hunt this other one, and it was just crazy. And it was like that's kind of the brilliance of it, when the systems all start to interact with each other, you know, in front of you. Because at its core, you are the imperialist scumbag humans that have gone to some nice secluded island with this lovely ecosystem, and you've decided to murder everyone on it just to make new clothes. And I mean, that's pretty fucked up. Tonally, Monster Hunter is a very strange game because it feels like you're not really the good guys here. And there's a bit of a story, but it's a bit shit, and I don't really kind of care about any of it. But the core loop of hunting to upgrade outfits so you can hunt bigger things, that is fun, even if it's a bit uncomfortable at times.
I mean, there's not much progressive animal welfare politics going on here. You're right, but
it has come from the nation that still hunts whales. So I think when you consider that, it probably makes more sense that they don't have the most progressive animal rights sort of ideals.
But it is interesting that they're not there just to be hunted. They do live there and they interact with each other.
They're not. The thing that's weird for me is they're not bad. They're not really trying to fuck you up.
Yeah.
They're not really doing anything that needs punishing, you are just going out with your big 12-bore shotgun to murder the white elephant.
They're often
That's
not even
really all
aggressive
you're doing.
until you have a
Nope.
crack at them. They'll just
Nope.
potter about minding their own business. But yeah, the whole ecosystem thing makes it for me, because it is a game all about hunting a big monster, going back to your base, and then doing it all over again dozens of times.
I bet
So
Trump supporters love it. Sorry.
Yeah, probably. But it could get quite old quite quickly. But the way that those interactions work, and that any situation could change dramatically on a dime, it's always interesting. There's always different ways that a mission can go.
Yes.
So I'm really enjoying it so far.
Problem, I think, considering this game is so much about multiplayer, it's not exactly the easiest multiplayer experience to set up, is it, Richard?
No. Well, it has been functionally broken
impaired
on Xbox. It hasn't worked at all for periods of time. So I think it's working at the moment, and I believe it's the Xbox version that's affected the most, from what I've heard.
But even then, just finding how to get someone into a party with you through the menus isn't difficult. Exactly kind of, it doesn't really make sense, does it? No. It's not. It should literally be like 1-2 button presses at the most, and you're together. But no, it doesn't work.
It's inviting someone into the game. They might be in the game, but you can't physically see them in your world until you sign up to the same mission as them on the in-game notice board. So you've kind of got to join a game twice for it to work. It's a bit messy. Not intuitive.
I mean, it's got problems, and I will reflect that in my review. I think my review will probably go up later on today. It's got problems, but there is an undeniable charm about it. And much like like the best shooters or the best games, there is a core loop to the experience that, the rewards that tie into the gameplay, that tie into the rewards, that tie into the gameplay, and it is a very pleasant experience. When you ignore the animal rights element, when you ignore the bad interface and the bad online, and all those sort of periphery problems.
And the graphical performance is not brilliant either. Even on an X, it's a bit shonky.
Well, the X has got problems because it seems like HDR hasn't been supported properly, and it therefore looks very washed out, from what I've heard. And the S just runs a bit shit. So it has more frame rate issues. So I think, they're patching it. I've seen like at least 3 patches land for this game already on Xbox. So I mean, they are doing stuff. But it's going to be a curious one for me to review. Yeah.
When you get the multiplayer going, though, it is really good fun. I mean, I've only really played it 2-player so far, but once you get a 4-player squad going, I can imagine that would be fantastic.
Yeah,
different play styles complement each other, don't they? So I was going in with a sword. You got your ranged weapon.
It's definitely one of those games where, a little bit like Destiny, the game really starts at the end.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like when you've beaten the story, when you've kind of seen all the environments, then you get into the high tier stuff where you're working with 3 others and you're specializing, and you know all the systems, you understand all the mechanics. It's definitely not as accessible as Destiny, don't get me wrong, but it is one of those sort of MMO type situations where it's the high level end game play is where it's really when it all sings together the most. Curious though, I'm glad to have played it. I am glad to finally have experienced the Monster Hunter game and really dug into it.
Yeah, it's good. Friend of the show, Adam's playing it as well. He described it as Fantasy Star Universe, but actually a good game. So anyone that hankers for a bit of Fantasy Star and has been starved of that in the West, because we haven't had one for many years, this kind of scratches that itch.
Joel, have you got any questions as the one person not playing the game?
No, I'm not. To me, I'm just watching some videos of it now, and it looks... Yeah, it looks reasonably entertaining. Good fun. Looks like it appeal well to American dentists. This is one of those games I know I'd enjoy it. I think I'd have a good time with it and things, but I just don't have the free time to experience it at the moment. Perhaps further down the line. So
fair enough. So that takes us to the end of the sort of review segment, and I've got a couple of games I now wanted to tip a hat to a little bit that I played recently. Forza Horizon 3 and The Witcher 3 post Xbox One X patches are glorious. And if you own these games, you need to play them on your X with the patch. Rich, have you had a chance yet to experience Forza Horizon 3 on the X?
I have.
Holy shit.
I might go all Emperor's New Clothes on this and say it's not as glorious as I thought it would be. Doesn't look as good as Forza 7, for example. And I expected a bit of a downgrade because it's open world, but I don't know.
Well, where are you? I mean, I think the lighting and the
which areas have you looked in?
environmental lighting. Sorry?
Which areas of the game have you looked in? Because I've booted it up for a couple of minutes and just looked in the really stark deserty bits.
I was in the sort of more
much detail to build on in those areas.
I was in the more temperate areas, like the jungle areas and the more,
right.
and the lighting there and stuff, and the water. It looks fantastic, and I think the environmental lighting, it just looks amazing. The reflections off the cars and stuff, when you're really flying around, and it doesn't look quite as nice as Motorsport, but it's pretty damn close. Like, I
try it
think
again.
really
I reckon in those areas that you've mentioned, probably it would make a lot more of a difference. But
possibly, yeah, possibly, yeah. And The Witcher 3 it runs better than it's ever run. Loading times are massively improved, and it already looked amazing, but it unbelievably gorgeous now. That is still one of my, or possibly still my favorite game on the platform. Like that is just such a perfect game. You really should.
I bought it at launch, still not played it.
Oh mate, it's just special. It's just perfect. Like, as an open world RPG, it's just one of the best. Like, really, really high up there. The other thing I want to mention, I haven't played it, but I thought it was worth mentioning. Spec Ops the Line is now backwards compatible, and if you have an Xbox One, oh god, and it's on sale right now as well.
Yeah, I just got it, $3.99.
Yeah, fucking buy and play that game. Like, that is one of the most, I mean, I say most underrated, but I think amongst people that play a lot of video games like us, we all know how good it is. We've all played it. But I think a lot of people saw generic shooter when they saw that game and have always dismissed it as that. It's not that. It's amazing.
The people who've bought it and played it, they get it. But there will be a lot of people who've looked at the cover of the box and thought, I'll take that at face value. That is one of those shooters. It's not. It's a comment on those shooters. Totally different offering than what you were expecting.
Amazing. Have you played it, Joel?
No, but
what the fuck, man? Play that fucking game.
Mate, get it. $3.99. It's amazing.
Shit. Do you know like the weirdness about it?
No.
Oh god. Oh wow, you need to play that and we talk about it on the next podcast.
Okay.
It's fantastic. You got to stick with it.
Give it some time, because to begin with, it will feel like every other third-person shooter. It is not.
It's just another Nolan North voiced shooter, isn't it? I forget Nolan North's the lead in that, isn't he?
Yeah.
But it goes places, man. Oh my god, so good. At $3.99, and I think Darkness 2 just went up as well. Another great game.
Yeah, $4.99.
That's $4.99 as well, and that's a fantastic shooter as well. Comic booky, violent, dark. Definitely worth picking up. Really, really cool game. Even if you've not played the first one, don't worry about that.
Got them both.
Yeah, so did I. I was like, I played them both to completion, but I'm buying them again. Damn you, back-to-back bullshit. God damn it. Right, the other one I mentioned a little bit less positively was, you guys check out Observer yet?
No.
Some people were really raving about that last year. And I think it's okay. It's Rutger Hauer. It's, dark, dystopic, Blade Runner-esque future. And it's sort of, it's fine. You kind of like, it's a bit walking simulator. It's a bit investigatory, and then it's sort of a bit puzzly as well. And you kind of do this thing where you jack into people's brains, and then it becomes all very surreal, but in a very kind of predictable video gamey way. Like, platforming sections where it's all dark and you can barely see where you need to go, and shit like that. It's like, oh, I remember that bit from Max Payne. That sucked then, and it still sucks now. So it's kind of like, I don't know. People got very excited about this sort of towards the end of last year, and I'm curious about maybe progressing a little bit further through. I picked up on the sale, but it didn't exactly blow me away. But I like Rutger Hauer, so I don't know. We'll see. I might carry on for it. Guys,
what does he do in the game? Is he just voice acting? Or?
Yeah, he's voice acting the main character. He's the main character. He's you, and it's first person. And he's basically this cyberpunk detective, crime noir. He's lost his son, and he can jack into people's minds and find out their darkest secrets and how they died and shit like that. And it's all very gruff and chain smokery, and the world is better than the game. I think that's what it kind of comes down to. It's a cool world, but not the most fun to play in. But yeah, I think it's curious. It's curious. You guys have been playing a really interesting little selection of older games as well, actually.
Yeah.
So who wants to go first?
I'll talk about Dear Esther. I played that ages ago on the PC, and I just came up on the Xbox feed. I think it was like 99p for the Landmark edition. I thought, I'll go for it.
Nice.
Why not? I'll play for it again. It's a pleasantly short experience. Yeah, I think that's about the third time I played through it. It's still good. Doesn't quite have the impact of the first or second time I think I played it through, but yeah, it's kind of where is it where Walking Sims began?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is, isn't it? It's before Gone Home.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really, I still really like it. I love the music. Jessica Curry did the whole sort of soundtrack for that and things. Yeah,
She's brilliant, isn't she?
Also, isn't it easy achievements on that one as well? And you get 1,000 gamer score without even trying.
Well, essentially, yeah, you just have to walk through the game and you'll get the majority of the achievements. There are some collectibles, apparently. I did look at the achievements list, and it's like find 4 urns, and it's like, well, I didn't ever see anything in this game that you can actually interact with. So
they're not easy to find. They're not. I did do all of that, but I had to use a guide to find some of them.
Yeah, I probably won't bother going back for it. So, but yeah, it was a pleasant walkthrough and things.
And your obsession continues with Stardew Valley.
I've fallen back off the wagon heavily back into Stardew Valley now. That game's like worse than. I wish I did drugs. It would probably consume less of my time. But that game is just so freaking addictive. It's kind of I go through it in spurts. I think I've almost burned myself out of it again. But yeah, it's
I keep nearly buying it on Switch. I keep nearly buying it again.
I won't buy it on the Switch because I will try and play it whilst driving to work and probably kill myself. That's the problem that you'll have. Like you're sat there in slow moving traffic, like I'll get the Switch out and just start the next farming day. Before you know it, it'll be in a ditch or something. Like I'm not buying that on the Switch. Like I'd be too dangerous. Walking down the street playing it, just walking into lampposts and other people. No.
But what are you doing? You'd be like, I'm farming. Fuck off.
Yeah. Getting truffles from my pigs.
Well, that sounded vaguely sexual. But... And Richard, I've been tinkering through COD as well, actually, recently. Finishing off the story.
Yeah, I just finished it yesterday.
I'm doing like a mission or two every few days.
Okay.
It's pretty, isn't it, on X?
Mate, it looks so good. I feel bad for luxuriating over the visuals come the end because it goes quite dark. But yeah, COD World War II, I have now finished. That is well worth a playthrough. I had my doubts over this because going back to World War II, Call of Duty's kind of been there, done it, over and over again, right? But I don't feel like it's ever done it in this way. It's always been more action over kind of what you're there for. And this one goes to much greater lengths to explore what people were there for, what their experience was, what the cost was. It's a worthwhile experience to go through that again in Call of Duty experience, and looks fantastic. It's I don't want to spoil where you go at the end, but it's not very
I think it takes, the problem I had with it is it takes way too long to get to that resonant point where suddenly if it grows up and actually does do something new. It's more than half the way through the campaign before
that's right. It does
connect with it.
Sidesteps its responsibility there a little, particularly with the opening level being the Normandy beach landings yet again. It just feels like it's treading old ground. But ultimately it's not. It does go to new places.
I've got to find out. Right, I was amazed when you told me you were playing this for the first time, Richard. Absolutely amazed. This is my game of the year it came out in. Gone Home.
Yeah, it'd been on my list of shame for absolutely ages.
5 years.
Yeah, long time. And I've owned it for ages as well because it was on PlayStation Plus for good old few years ago. I think must be a couple of years ago that was on PlayStation Plus, and it's been on Games with Gold on Xbox
a couple of months ago, I think, because that's when I played it. Yeah.
Well, I've did it on Xbox. I don't remember buying it, so I guess it must have been on Games with Gold.
Showed up.
yeah, I just kind of hammered it over a day.
Nice. 2 hours. I mean,
Well, I think
it's
I
not
spent,
long.
No, it's not long. Probably, yeah, a couple of hours. But then I went through and did all the achievements after as well. So
Did speedrunning achievement. It's fun, isn't it?
yeah, done that. So completely rinsed it. But what struck me about it, one of the interesting things about Gone Home is that there's quite a lot of secrets in that house to find, but it doesn't sort of gate any of them. You can go anywhere you like, really, from the beginning. You can finish the game within a minute if you know what you're looking for.
Yep.
But the way that it sort of hides all of that and becomes a real journey of exploration and not a sort of hand-holding exercise with the developer telling you this is what you should discover now and this is where you should go next. It's very much more organic than that, and you can kind of go and find as you please. And what I did find went in a much different direction than I expected. It starts out thinking it's going to be some sort of supernatural haunted house experience. Nothing like that at all. Couldn't be further from that.
Nope.
And yeah, it's quite a touching experience come the end as well.
You should play Tacoma now and see why I was so disappointed.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I wonder how Tacoma measures up to this then.
Doesn't.
No.
It's just it's not the same emotional resonance at all. It does some cool stuff with narrative and stuff, but I didn't connect with it in anywhere near the same way.
That's what makes it though. So if it hasn't got that, then it's just a house, isn't it?
What Tacoma's on a space station?
Well, just a space station, yeah.
It's just a space station.
Sorry, yeah. I mean, if Gone Home didn't have that, it would just
absolutely. That's why it's so fucking clever. Yeah, I think that's why it's such a smart piece of design and the gameplay combination. Yeah, fantastic. And finally, I've got this on Switch as well, and I need to play some more because I think I'd really enjoy it. Thimbleweed Park.
Thimbleweed. Hang on, let me just.
That's what you put.
Yeah, I've just had a notification come up on my Surface that it's going to reset in 10 minutes.
Yay, Microsoft! Awesome.
Today's update.
Brilliant. Yeah, all right, I'll sort that in a minute. So Thimbleweed Park is a point-and-click adventure, very much in the ilk of the old Lucasfilm games, so Monkey Island, Zack McCracken, Maniac Mansion, that sort of thing, for people old enough to remember. And it's by some of the guys that did those games. So
Ron Gilbert, isn't it?
Ron Gilbert is the big name behind this. But there's quite a few people that I can't name, I think, that worked on those games that have gone on to produce this. And it's more of a modern take on that genre, really. So still pixelated graphics, so it's very loyal to the original vision of those games. It's still got the text options on screen, so you got to choose whether you open, close, use, talk to, all of that stuff. So you click on what you want to do and then what you want to do it to on the screen. Very old-fashioned, but still works. And the game is at pains to tell you that it's not as painful as some of the older graphic adventures. There's no death in this. There aren't unforeseen consequences to the choices that you make, so you haven't got to carefully monitor your save games. You can just play it and enjoy it. And it kind of breaks that fourth wall quite a lot throughout the game and tells you what it's doing with the genre, which is quite charming and helpful at the same time. And it's really funny. I don't want to tell you what the story is really, because it goes to some quite funny places, but it's hilariously written. And I really enjoyed it. You play from the perspective of 5 different characters, each with their own sort of backstory, their motivations, and different abilities. And working between them, you can kind of switch between them anytime you like and swap objects between them as well. So that forms the basis of some of the puzzles. Some characters will need objects more than others would need them. They can go to places that other characters can't because of who they are. And it's all focused around murder mystery to begin with. So a body is found and 2 agents come to find out who killed this person and why. and the story kind of builds from there and goes in unexpected directions. Very enjoyable game, and another one that I've sort of played through from start to finish without break pretty much because I was enjoying it so much.
Oh, that sounds cool. Can you do me a favor, Richard? Can you say to Sarah, I'll get a bacon and egg sarnie. I'll be over in about 20 minutes. I just figure while she's doing your lunch, she could do me a little something. I mean, while she's there, maybe sausage as well, mushrooms.
You can get here in 20 minutes from Cambridge, mate. Yeah.
Yes, I'll just use my my teleportation device. No worries, I'll be right there. But I think that takes us to the end. You guys got anything else you wanted to throw in? Any other little games you've been playing? No, lots of
nothing much, yeah.
Quietly shook heads. That's cool. I mean, it's nice to be back doing a regular podcast. We haven't done a normal one in what feels like bloody months. I guess it hasn't been months.
Before Christmas, I think.
Yeah, would have been a while back. Might have been November time. I think we did the last one in this style. So that's been episode 40 of Bxb'S Bits and Bobs. Please follow us at Bxb Games on Twitter, Bxb Games on Facebook, Bxb Games on YouTube. You can even find Joel on Twitter now at Nuclear Red Eye. Now
that's a story in itself, isn't it? That I had to join because Ben was saying they're getting some serious heat on his Axiom Verge, so I joined to see what it was all about. It was good. It was
good. Yeah, it's sometimes weird what articles we post get the most sort of interest, and the fact that was a review for a game that's been out for 3 years is kind of surprising. But there you go.
I think everyone was just tweeting about the fact you wrote something rather than.
I do still vaguely remember how. I don't use the skill very often, but it does come in handy occasionally when I can't capture footage. I haven't worked out how to do that from the Switch yet. I thought I could have asked you, Joel, because you've got your fancy capture shit, haven't I?
You can capture it on that, but I don't think the Switch has a capture mode built in.
No. I know it does, but it's only like on supported games. I'm pretty sure they brought that in the system.
You can do screenshots, can't you? But can you actually do video?
I think you can do video from Zelda or something like that, but it's very short.
It's 30-second clips, I think you can do.
Brilliant.
Games that they've patched it into.
Jeez. Amazing. That sounds like effort, doesn't it? 30 seconds, Jesus. Richard can be found at Colonel Red. I can be found at DIYE. Head over to iTunes to rate and review this podcast if you like it. It helps with visibility, and the more people that listen to it, the more people watch it, the longer we'll be able to keep doing it. And that's always good. I'm trying to think what's coming up, guys. What's on the horizon?
Bayonetta 2. I've just pre-ordered on Switch.
Okay.
Colossus is out this week. Next week, depending on when your week starts, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. That's soon, out for the 14th time, and Bayonetta also out for the umpteenth time as well, I suppose, at this point. Yeah, I mean that's so we're in that port season, aren't we? We're in like remake and port season right now. It's a bit quiet while we wait for games to sort of start appearing again. That's cool. We're going to look more at Atomic and come back about all that next time in a couple of weeks or thereabouts or something. I don't know. Might be a week, might be 2, might be 3. We'd like to keep you waiting. So thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you all soon. Bye.
Goodbye.